Hey guys, welcome to the Intentional Queen podcast where women come to be empowered on their self love, self healing, and growth mindset journey. I am Janine. I am the host and also a life coach, and I'm just so glad to have you with me. We are in February, so you know that is the month of love. So it's only right that I'm going to dedicate these 28 days to love in some fashion. Are we going to talk about self love? We're going to talk about love languages. We're going to talk about a lot of love. So you need to know for the people who need to hear this, particularly, we are sending you peace, light, and love because some people out here need a little extra TLC. So I'm giving it to you before we get started. So hopefully you guys have been tuning in and keeping up with all the latest episodes on the podcast. The last one was the capacity to hold, and you just got to purge for what's to come. And man, that blessed some people. So definitely, I hope that was a good episode for you. When I'm teaching you guys on here, it's like an onion approach, and I feel like it's layers to this thing. So we just gonna keep evolving because that's my word of 2022. Hopefully you have decided on what is your word for the year. And I just want to thank you for all your support. One new update, guys, I'm always trying to do better with sharing, but also celebrating my little wins. So social media is not something that I love, but it's something I'm growing into. It's part of Intentional Queen Journey. So I started a Twitter account, guys. So to my IG people and my YouTube people, if you've been looking for me, I'm over there at Janine IQ Journey, and that's where you can find me on Twitter. So go over there and follow me, and let's go ahead and keep making this movement grow. I'm just so happy. Also, if you follow me on YouTube and Spotify, I want you guys to rate, subscribe, and it's now available. So on Spotify, if that's where you go to listen, they now have a rating option. So when you rate the podcast, it helps the reach to go further. And that's the same thing when it comes on YouTube. If you listen there, you subscribe and you hit the button like, okay? I want you to share this with a friend if you think it resonates, and join the newsletter at intentionalqueenjourney.com. If you hit that, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you sign up to the newsletter. I got some things coming in the wind, and I just want you to be a part of it because that's what we do. Iron sharpens iron, so I can't do it without you. So let's jump into this thing because I don't want it to go too long with the intro. But February, as I said, is love. And so I'm going to call it the self-love month. We're going to do something every day as far as throughout my social platforms to celebrate love. The 2 podcast episodes that are going to be in February, I'm going to devote it to some form of love. So let's talk about consistency and loving yourself. That could be a love language, in my opinion. Discussions on self-love, how to love yourself again, and just how to fall in love with yourself. People think it's cliche, and I feel like self-love is not selfish. It's something that you have to do, okay? And when you do that, it allows you to pour into other people, because when you show you love yourself and you know your worth and you know who you are out here in these streets, then therefore when anything comes up to you, it's a bonus, and that way you can go ahead and pour into other folks what you have. But remember, you got to know your capacity, so don't be pouring too much. Don't be Bob the Builder, okay? If you want to know what I'm talking about, that's on the last episode. So there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. It's actually on my blog page on the website Intentional Queen Journey. I put a book list together of my key books that I feel like is a part of the Intentional Queen toolkit. And so the 5 Love Language book is on there. And I feel like this book is going to be the center of February for us. I want us to figure out how to use them in our day-to-day and how we can do that and falling back in love with ourselves again and just putting forth the effort to go ahead and do better. To my moms out there, I'm going to try to dig into something because I want us to know how to use these love languages when we're in motherhood with our children. When we're good, they're good. So I want you to love them and show them how they need to be loved, because to the moms out there, especially if you have sons, I'm a boy mom, we're the first woman that they will ever love. And so therefore teaching them can help them when they get into their relationships in love with girlfriends and wives. So it's very important that we show them structure at home so they know how to be healthy and learn how to be vulnerable and all those type of things when they're in relationships with their future boo. Okay. So self-love, let's talk about Psalms 139:14. It's a self-love scripture, and it says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. Pretty much what I'm saying here is You know yourself. Practice self-love. Self-love is not selfish. I want to ask you a question. What are your thoughts on self-love? To me, I feel like love is a feeling that comes from your thoughts about it. When your mindset shifts and you breeding positive thoughts and positive seeds, you reap the positive harvest. So you reap what you sow, not necessarily where you sowed the seed. So make sure when you are reaping these things and you're sowing into people and you're sowing into things, you may not think that that is where you're going to reap your harvest, but you may just be preparing for something in the future. Whatever you do, I just want you to be a good steward over whatever you have now. I want you to bloom, BLOOM, where you are. I keep drilling this down because my listeners, and I'm on a couple of Facebook groups, and I'm just seeing a lot of people really struggling. And with February being the month of love, so people are coupled up, booed up, and to my singles out there, it can be frustrating. So I want to give you this time to know that this is your time to work on you. Because if you right when it comes for you and it's your turn, you're going to be ready because you've done the healing work, you've done the thought work, and you just a whole person out there in the streets. Because just because somebody is with somebody, just so we clear, just because you with somebody don't mean that you technically are in a healthy relationship. It could be toxic. Doesn't mean that everything is all good. I remember a friend said to me a while ago, and she said, some people just judge your life, but they don't really know what's going on the inside. So sometimes on the outside, relationships look real good, but on the inside, you know what I mean? The real facts, the real things going on in the street, it's just not a healthy relationship. So don't always be trying to praise somebody else's relationship when you don't know all the facts, you know. That's just a caveat. And I know we all been seeing about Devon Franklin and Megan Good situation. I'm not here to judge, but I feel like, people really don't know what was going on behind the scenes. And so I can personally say from my own divorce, people didn't know what was really going on in the streets. And so sometimes it's better not to judge, but just help encourage each other to grow and be healthy in their new space. Because I will say on record, I was judged pretty heavily for my divorce. People believe that, I was giving up, but see, people didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. And so for me, I knew it was time. And there's something else. And this is not just me talking about my personal situation, but I was listening to somebody on another video and they said, sometimes you can be in a relationship and it's become so distant, but they'll hand you the scissors to sever the tie, even though they know it's over, but they don't want to be the ones to cut it. That's a word for somebody. So sometimes you could be in situations and people hand you the scissors. That could even be in a friendship. They hand you the scissors because they don't want to make the maneuver, but you already know that the relationship has dissolved. So you pretty much are holding on to what is the question. What are you holding on to? So never be afraid to use the scissors when they're handed to you, but you have to watch how folk will manipulate you to use the scissors because they don't want to use the scissors. So then when they out in the streets, they want to tell everybody you're the one that used the scissors, but yet they handed them to you. Ooh, that's a word. So we're going to keep pushing on, but I thought that was just a little something there that I wanted to do. And especially I wanted to spend a little time on that with my singles. And just remember, just like transformation and coming through the stages of a butterfly, we all go through trials and tribulations. I just did a Facebook video where I was talking about meekness in a storm. And when I did that podcast episode, I talked about a book by Sarah Jake Roberts' husband, Touré Roberts, and it's called Wholeness. And that's a really good read. So if you're looking for some books to read, because remember, you're working on your triple B's and your Tony Gaskins voice, okay? Like I said, go back to the blog page on the website, www.intentionalqueenjourney.com, and you'll see the toolkit. And I want you to go ahead and you'll see that book, Wholeness. That's a good read. I put probably like 10 to 12 books that I thought were really good. And I put the Amazon link right there so you can get it for yourself. And that book talked about living in remorse versus regret. But I did this Facebook video and I talked about storms and how eagles soar on storms. They sit in the pocket and they can just push and just soar on a storm and rest when they're in their times of trial and turbulence. So I feel like sometimes we get fidgety, we get uneasy, we get weary in our times of trial, but we don't utilize that time to rest, to recoup, because when it's time to shoot your shot, if you are already tired before the race even begin, you're not going to have the capacity nor the endurance to keep going. So really, it's not about a sprint, it's about a marathon. So if you getting ready for a marathon, you got to be able to have endurance to sustain the race. You have to be able to be rested when it's time of tension. And when you do the bow and arrow concept, if God is the bow and you're the arrow and he pulls back on that string, that's the string is in tension, okay? Which means you pull back with it. So you have to be able to rest while you're in tension. So when he lets go to shoot you to where you're going to go, you're going to hit the target because you already rested. Now you're ready to run your race. That is for somebody. I don't know why I had to get on that tangent, but meekness in a storm, that's key. And I just want you guys to know that whole remorse and regret thing came from the book Wholeness. And it's just something that will humble you. And meekness means humility. And if you can be like an eagle and soar on the storm, that's why they go higher. When they're in turbulence, they go higher. So when things get really, really stressful, you have to find a way to elevate yourself. And most of the time, it's through elevating your mind. And that's why a lot of times you hear me talk about growth mindset, because I really want you to understand it's about shifting your mind to positive things. Your subconscious mind is something that's really, really big, and you have to retrain it like a muscle. And I think they say it takes about 3 weeks before you can learn a new behavior, before it becomes more of a routine. So a lot of times you'll hear people tell you do something for 3 weeks to a month because they want you to do it every day so you can retrain your brain to do it. And so that's kind of the same thing you have to do with your subconscious mind when you're trying to love yourself and shift your mind, is you have to just retrain it to think positive thoughts. That's why I tell you about affirmations are key and all those type of things. That's why I tell you every time we talk, you a drive out here in these streets. I want you to get that down in your spirit, because it will become natural. When your mind wants to shift back to negative thoughts, you'll be keen to go ahead and shift to positive thoughts and cast down them negative ones, because you already know who you are. Okay. Because once you know who you are, it don't matter what they say in the streets. Okay. It just doesn't matter. Once you know who you are, you know your worth, you know your value. It doesn't matter whether you're winning or losing. Your value is going to always be 100, and anything else that comes to you is a bonus. Then you can just live in your truth and be authentically and beautifully you. I mean, that's just facts. So that's why I feel like it's so important to love yourself first. And you just have to make an intentional effort. Once again, this is Intentional Queen podcast. And that's kind of how I birthed it, because I feel like that song Intentional by Travis Green, all things are working for my good because he's intentional. That song came to me in one of my storms when I probably about 6 years ago. I think it's so good for why I named the podcast that, because we want to do things from a deliberate but a good intention. You want to do things with good intent, because like I said, when you sow good, you reap good. And you don't got to be worried about who's not doing the right thing. When you can stand clear and your mind and your conscience is clear, and you can stand in the light and say, hey, this is what it is, and be unapologetic and be authentic, and also let go of perfection, because we all are flawed in some type of way. But you know what? People can see beauty in the flaws. Diamonds even have tarnishes in them if you look at them very clearly, but they're very beautiful, and they're very valuable, and they're priceless. So that's what you are out here. Remember, like I said, it starts within you, your mind, your thoughts, your actions, and so on. So that's why I did that episode called As an Intentional Queen Think Of, because that comes from a book called As a Man Think Of by James Allen. And I did a whole episode about that. And I mean, calmness is mastery. And once you can control your mind and your reactions to how you navigate, it's a game changer, because people be trying to flare you up and you be like, listen, the struggle is real. But nah, that's not what we're doing today, you know. And try to change your perspective on things, your perception on things, And once you kind of start doing that, you'll be in a better healing phase for you, because when you're healing and you're whole, it's just a whole new way to be. And that's when you start getting to the butterfly phase. And I always talk about the crushing too, because I feel like the crushing is when you coming from grapes to wine. That's TD Jakes. And nobody wants to talk about that transition phase, man. When you being crushed, it's rough, but you have to go into a new skin. You can't put new wine into an old skin. And so therefore you have to become anew in order to be put into something else, a new container. And so the wine phase is where it's at, and that's where you want to be. That's leveling up your intentional queen to a better you. Somebody said, why do I have IQ? It is the abbreviation of intentional queen. But the reason why I say level up your IQ to a better you, because your IQ is your vision, it's your brain, it's your intelligence, right? And so I wanted it to be saying something, because I'm always talking about giraffes out here in the streets, and I'm always talking about vision. And I just feel like, that's kind of why that tagline was that. So I just want you to take a moment, replenish your cup, make sure your lens is accurate, continue to pour into others, and take moments out for your self-care, like read a book, meditate, journal, talk to a good friend, take a walk, take a spa day, send your own self flowers, girl. Okay, ain't nothing wrong with that. Treat yourself how you would want to be treated by someone else, okay? But also know that your love language for yourself may not be the love language that you ask for from others. Ooh, that was good. I heard that on another podcast. So do the love language that you need to do, but that might not be the love language that you want your partner to give you, or that your partner will receive. Y'all can have different love languages, And I want you to create and do daily affirmations. It's so key to speak life into yourself every day. So our thought work of this podcast episode is, I want you to get your journal and I want you to write down 10 affirmations about yourself, okay? I want you just to think about it and write it down. I am whatever. I am beautiful. I am loved. I am whatever it is. I'm just giving you some examples. I want you to write them down. And I want you to put them somewhere by your bed or wherever it is that you can see it in the morning. And I want you to marinate on that thing at least 2 times a day, in the morning and before you go to bed. And I want you to do that for 2 weeks until you hear from me again, because I want you to start getting your subconscious mind to start feeling that, to start knowing it without a shadow of a doubt that it's real, because you will be able to cast out them negative thoughts. One thing also I wanted to say is, it's not where you start, but it's how you evolve and finish. So even though you may have started and it was rocky, it's the endurance is how you look when your stride is getting on that 3rd mile and that 4th mile, okay? And you just keep going, until you win your race, because we just in a marathon right here. So if any of this resonated with you guys, you can hit me up. I'm a self-love and growth mindset coach, and you can sign up for your free consultation call on the website. If you're ready for your transformation, I'm ready to see you. We're going to do the self-love, how to use the love languages on yourself and motherhood in 2 weeks. So make sure you come back. Follow me on Twitter, y'all, at Janine IQ Journey. And then, like I said, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you listen to, so that the reach can go far. And YouTube and Spotify definitely is trying something new. So definitely do that. I'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. Bye-bye.